your evening and prepare for tomorrow. And of course, we've already made introductions. I think what I'll do is, rather than, I know some judges will go over every single speaker, which every participant takes forever. So I wanted to give you my 4 biggest takeaways, and I think I made a fairly extensive individual kind of decision. First thing on the themes, both opening and close. I like the consistency of the defense. It came down to experience. It came down to experience. It tells the story very nicely of that essentially this was just Covington making the best decision that he could on the merits of the proposal. In opening, it was lied to, and then in close, it was democracy. And I'm stealing this from one of the judges in my first round today. And she was a Duke 2L as well. And she made the point that she felt like the righteous indignation over lying equals corruption, equals bad democracy, equals bad politics. Her argument was she felt like it's kind of hard to sustain, and a better approach just might to make this about the facts and the law and the facts, and the fact that the facts are on your side and the law is on your side. It doesn't necessarily need that dramatic effort. I don't know if I agree or disagree, but I just thought I would pass that along. But in either respect, we need a more consistent and simplified theme that appears both in open and close. It should be at the beginning of open, the end of open, the beginning of close, and the end of close, and it should be consistent each time. But I'm sure you already knew that.
It's interesting you say that, because neither of those were her theme.
Oh, what is the thing?
When she took the briefcase.
Well, then why isn't that the first thing out of your mouth? That should be the first line of the open, and it should be the first line of the close, and it should be the last line of the close. I thought it might be. I saw that in there, and ironically, that was exactly the theme that was embedded in the first one as well. Yeah, okay. Well, as you know, the convention, you're not coming at this from a mock trial standpoint, as I'm sure you know. You know, we just have that convention of the theme being the first line of the speech, the last, and so forth. Not a major deal. I think what ultimately, probably from a competition standpoint, was the thing that put the defense on the defensive, if you'll pardon the pun, was the cross-examinations. I think you probably know they're just far too brief. You can't, and this is where the difference between a real trial and mock trial becomes problematic. You know, in a real trial, you can do the dramatic, very short cross-examination because you feel like you made your point and you don't need to say more. But in mock trial, you need to sustain enough time so the judge can sort of evaluate you as a student speaker. And when it's just so brief, there's not much to go on. I think all 3 of your crosses put together were, what, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, something like that, out of 25. And so one area that I would suggest that you could profitably explore, what we got none of at all, is any effort at all to indict any of the character or the expertise of any of the witnesses. You sort of just focused on the core issues of the facts of the case. You know, all of these witnesses, Corey Hyde, for instance, has some sketchy elements of their background. I understand it's probably not going to make big a difference in the outcome of the trial, but it gives you as attorneys some more to talk about. And I think there's some additional details. Now, interestingly, the things that you did hit on and went into, they were the right things and they were well done and you scored points on those. But just from a speech standpoint, which is really my field, you really need to work on just developing those a little bit further. The other thing that was really interesting to me, and I'm sure you guys could kind of notice this as well, is the strength of the prosecution's witnesses. This is again the difference in real trial and mock trial, particularly after the first trial, and this is long, and even though the real judges and the real attorneys who are doing the judging, you know, they're trained to pay attention to the law, there is an entertainment value aspect to this, that to kind of keep the judge and the jury and the audience engaged, bringing some character to the characters. And I'm sure you saw some of the rather ingenious ways the prosecution did that. The ShamWow guy, I mean, just that was just too much. It was brilliant. I don't know if anyone else picked out, he was doing the Sham Wow guy, and it was freaking crazy cool. And now again, different judges have different personal preferences. Some might prefer a more realistic approach, but between, Marissa Torme and the Sham Wow guy, and then the Nerdnik, guy, which was probably the most natural of all the 3 witnesses. It's just hard because it just gives the judges entertained a little bit. You can't help but smile, and it just wraps up all their testimony in this little sweet treat. So think about ways. Now, I will say, Mr. Covington, I thought you were sensational. That's the one exception. You see, I think Covington almost has to be real, because I think the best thing for the defense of Covington is to make him believable. And when you start doing the character stuff, it may undermine the believability of the witness. And so I thought your performance was very strong as Covington. It was very realistic. And ultimately, of course, they do a pretty good job on cross, you run up against the facts of the case, which, as we all know, don't really serve the defense very well. So there's only so much you can do. I actually, and this is the other thing I was going to say, is I actually kind of liked the first team didn't even bother to try to come up with an explanation of the physical evidence in the briefcase. They just indicted the investigation and said, well, we don't know for sure when it was there. But I actually like your little story about you met once before and all of that. But the only thing I'll say is, I have no idea, maybe I put that or something. It's automatic. Is it the gods?
I think this happened last year too.
Oh my God, it's probably on a timer.
It happened last year too.
I don't think you need the flirt thing. Listen, I don't think you need the flirt thing. It could just be a meeting and she's in your notebook. And you definitely don't need to spray the perfume over the top of it, which I think the defense successfully pointed out is kind of an odd, almost unimaginable scenario. I think all you have to say is, if she's leaning over the briefcase, she easily could have dripped or deposited some of the perfume from herself without the spraying the bottle over the top. None of that is particularly plausible, of course, for the perfume, but I think your character just doesn't necessarily, from my sense of it, fit Bancroft is flirting with you. And just the way you portray it, right? You know what I'm saying is that, of course we don't have Bancroft here to put that in context. Last thing I would point out is I love one of the strongest moments of the trial happened right at the end with the snow analogy. That was simple, it's kind of classic, but it really took the wind out of what was a pretty good defense close. I thought you did as best you could with a record that really doesn't, help you that much. But I thought that was a classic, simple rhetorical device, and it dramatized what really is the prosecution case here. I'm wondering if that could be developed into a theme somehow. The trail, someone in one of the trials had a connecting the dots kind of thing. Maybe that could be, because I think that's the strength of the defense case. It's not motive, because we just don't, the prosecution, we don't have a whole lot of, there's never much of an explanation, as you know, in the case file for why Covington would have done this. He deposited $150,000 before, as we heard, so it's not apparently hurting on money. I'm not really sure, so why, so just make it not about corruption or the lie or whatever. It's just, we don't know why, but he did it, and the evidence shows he did it, and it's like those footprints in the snow or the trail or something like that. But I thought both teams did really well. It was entertaining despite it being late in the day, and so great job.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah.
All right, I'm here.
This is cool. This is like, here,
I have some notes.
we can all do the supplement thing.
Okay, so a lot of similar things.
Hi everyone. I apologize for the interruption.
Yes.
I'm going down to security right now to get the lights.
We're fine. I think we're about done anyway, so I think we'll be okay. There we go.
So we deeply apologize for getting the situation fixed as soon as we can.
Yeah,
and I will keep
we're
going.
just on the last judge comment, so I think we'll be able to get done and make sure we don't leave anything behind. We'll be okay.
Oh, thank
All right, don't worry about
So the first thing, just sitting from this end, and that my former professor, who was a criminal prosecutor for like 25 years, kept drilling into our heads was that, this is, when you're the attorney that's talking, when you're doing a cross or you're doing your direct, this is your stage and the jury's your audience. Especially if it's your side's witness, don't forget to engage with the jury the whole time. You already know what questions you're going to ask your witness. You already know what they're going to answer. So, try to make sure that the jury's involved. One of the best things, she was a professor, but she always would notice if someone was starting to fall asleep in class and would just kind of find a way to get near them, to grab their attention. The jury's going to fall asleep. The prosecution, y'all had incredible witnesses, but I was definitely falling asleep hearing about how to conduct all these tests, You can't help that. And so make sure that you're engaging the jury, because that's who you're trying to convince in the end, right? And so be sure to engage with them. When you do get the opportunity for a cross, don't just throw it away. It's another chance for you to continue building your argument. So very similar, just spend a couple minutes. I mean, there's definitely multiple arguments that you can make, or just elaborate on something, but we're here to judge you as an attorney or as a witness as well. So I mean, just don't waste any moment that you have to be in the spotlight. If you want to be an attorney in the end, you have to love the spotlight anyways, right? Confidence-wise and just oratory, I'm right here and y'all are on the other side of even just the well and I can barely hear you, or it's difficult to hear what you're saying. Be confident, raise your voice, not scream, obviously, but raise your voice enough to where everyone can hear you, you're clear, you're concise with your words, you're meaningful in what you're saying. Just really give a lot of intention to that. As for the witnesses, mostly all of y'all did a really great job of selling the characters. That was exciting. There was an objection, and then the prosecution brought up a statute and threw legislative intent in there, and I loved it. It was the best thing I've seen. It was awesome. So, that was really cool for y'all to talk about. This is, I think it was over the bank statement, and it was like, it's not related to his business, it's related to what the bank's doing, and that's bringing in legislative components, and so that was exciting to listen to. The closing statements were good. The democracy argument's a pretty common one. It was like some of the stuff was like, wow, these are pretty consistent arguments that are made. But it was entertaining. The performance at the end absolutely was the most solid part in my book as well.
What did you just say? Because I'm
The last part, the footprints part.
Footprints.
And then the democracy argument is very common, and I liked it, but I do agree. I was kind of like, well, where are we going with this? Because you can't really prove necessarily like such a broad statement, and so I think that you all did a great job. Obviously, my biggest thing was just don't forget the people that are sitting on this side. You know your witnesses, and so you have to sell a story to them. And the best way to do that is to make sure you've learned this case backwards and forwards. Be confident in what you do, and just don't be afraid to kind of. You're on different sides. You're the prosecution, you're the defense. Don't be afraid to kind of get in the face of the witness. That definitely happened with Mr. Covington.
Yeah, he was the one that
He took the
heat, right?
He took it well. It was great. But it was really entertaining to watch. Y'all did a great job.
Let me tell you one other thing you made me think of when you said this, just from the prosecution standpoint, and this is a fine point, but I so much love all three witnesses, but Sikorsky, I can never get to figure out how to say it. It's kind of a rub because you have these two super entertainment, and then it goes to you, and as he says, right now you got to do the science. I realized there's really no way to put him earlier because you don't have the foundation earlier. I'm thinking that in the long run, as you're thinking forward into regionals and the rest, with that, because I think the other two are so good, I think you're probably going to have to up your performance quotient a little bit. You wouldn't otherwise. In a normal circumstances, I think you would have been one of the most standout witnesses, but you've got such two strong entertainers. I think you need a little twist, something. Australian accent, you know, whatever, you know how it goes. Some kind of little something that you wouldn't normally have to do, because I love everything. You seem so realistic, you're like your classic, you know, crime scene investigator, but they kind of, in contrast, create sort of a problem for you. And for you guys too, I think particularly those first two witnesses, you've got to think of you need to think of a backstory. And I think you started to have it with a kind of tough, you know, play some kind of like, you know, security, you know, action star kind of thing. That might work, that would fit your personality. And then there's so much you can do here. You've got the hair, right? So do something with that. Make it into a sort of a punk rocker thing. I know a lot of people are doing the California, like surfer guy kind of thing for that character. Just something. It's just one of those mock trial things. When you get against the good teams, as you know, they all do that. And they're like, it's like watching a stage play. So you just got to do it to compete ultimately. And I think you'll have the talent to do it. So, all right, great job. Get something to eat, get good sleep tonight.